Hello, hello. Again, I am back to talk about this upcoming full moon, which will also be a total lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. This one is going to be a catalyst that it's happening during Mercury retrograde, which I did a video on Mercury retrograde. If you want to catch that, it's one just before this. And so I recommend checking that out. But this full moon in Virgo is, first of all, this total lunar eclipse will be able to be seen across all of US, but the best place to see it will be on the Pacific coast on the west side because it'll be happening very early in the morning, like 3 a.m. And so on the East Coast, it'll just start getting a little bit too light as the moon peaks in totality. So ultimately, yes, the lunar eclipse is being seen over all of the US and a total eclipse because it is close to the nodes, the lunar nodes. And that means that this lunar eclipse is going to be uh, more about our dedication that we have to our sacred work, not just any old work, but our sacred work. And a lot of the stuff that I said in the Mercury retrograde video definitely applies. So again, you might want to check that out. But yeah, let's share the chart of this upcoming full moon. Here we go. Yes. So it will be at 12 degrees of Virgo, and the sun will be at 12 degrees of Pisces. And Me Mercury will have already gone retrograde, and already will have passed back over um, Venus in Pisces. So the Sun and Mercury are quite close to each other, even though there are 12 degrees of separation. Mercury is going backwards. And Mercury, excuse me, Mercury is the ruler of this Virgo moon. And so it is very important. And the fact that it's retrograde in Pisces, it means that our minds, our mental processes are being highlighted. Um, so yeah, when a total eclipse like this happens, there is full illumination. We're going to see something being revealed. And this time, because the sun is in Pisces, with the moon being in Virgo, we're going to be shown something illuminating about ourselves and something about our own day-to-day routine that it might need to be changed or it will be changed because sometimes the eclipses they just do what they do. And during this lunar eclipse, we also have the sun conjunct Pallas Athena. And Pallas Athena is all about strategy and strategy within the realm of Pisces is going to be using the tool of confusion, most likely. And so confusion will be a strategy. We need to keep that in mind as we are moving through the next few weeks. Um, these eclipse season usually has an effect for 6 months. And so it's not like this eclipse comes and goes and then that's that. It's not even like a couple weeks of influence until the next um moon, the new moon. It will be overriding an overarching theme for the next 6 months until the next eclipse season arrives. So, with that in mind, um, we're looking at with the moon next to the south node up here in Virgo, we're looking at processes that are needing to be taken away. And the Virgo energy loves to throw things away as a way of organizing because if something doesn't have a home and it isn't meant to have a home, it should just get thrown away, right? It seems very simple, very simple. And we're probably going to be seeing a lot of that out there in the world, on the world stage. We'll be seeing certain daily routines being thrown out because they are not working anymore. Absolutely not working. So, and in your own life, take a look at that and see, is there something that I do on the daily that just isn't serving me or the higher good anymore? Um, with all of this Pisces energy, um, we could be looking at our all of our little addictions. What are all of the little addictions in our lives that add up to sort of being a massive monster that we don't have any control over? Um, that is something that Mercury retrograde is asking us to look at also. It is going backwards through past, that is Venus and the Sun and Pallas Athena, and we'll be meeting up with the North Node before going direct again. And so all of this is all really perfect timing. This eclipse in particular is really speaking about perfect timing. And so what does that look like for you? And sometimes if we're not, assessing our daily activities, the sort of like monster underneath it all starts taking over. And that's really what addiction's all about, is finding out that you have no control over this daily activity, um, beyond just normal physical needs. I have to say that too. Because with this Virgo energy, the Virgo moon energy, um, really one of the best ways to experience this is to um, make some time to clear out some physical space that has been like affecting your mind. So, the physical space that's been affecting your mind. This is one of the things to pay attention to during this full moon eclipse, as well as this entire Mercury retrograde that's going on, which will be happening until spring equinox. So, we have all the rest of winter, technical winter, to be reassessing our daily activities so that when spring comes, the true new year of, astrology and the sun and the rebirth of the earth, um, it will come at a time where you have gone over some of the old things, reassessed things, thrown out stuff that just doesn't work, whether it's in your physical space or in your mental space. But most likely, we're talking about your physical space with the moon being in Virgo. So that is something to keep your mind on and focused on. You may not have to consciously focus on that, it may just happen. One of the sort of world stage things that could be happening during this full moon eclipse, um, during the 6 months that it really is in effect for, is that we could start seeing certain service types of jobs being phased out. I know that we're all being warned about AI taking over certain things, and we might actually get a taste of that in the next few months to come. And um, I can't say for sure whether this is good or bad because this is all a matter of your perspective and the context of your lifestyle. How are you living? Are you somebody who, you know, is your job going to be taken over by AI? I have no clue. And I know there's a lot of people out there spreading fear that everything is going to be taken over. Um, but, we can't say that for sure. Um, a lot of the time, what's happening is that we're just giving in to convenience. And that's really a lot of what's happening. So, yeah, this, Mercury being in retrograde and being the ruler of this full moon, the moon in Virgo, it is more mental unrest. And that's something to consider if you're taxing your mind and your brain so much and trying to figure things out with your brain. It might be a good idea to take a little break from that. That's something else I talk about in my Mercury retrograde video, is that we're going to have to probably figure out how to not use our minds to figure out some of these things during this time because there's going to be a lot that doesn't make sense. A lot of Pisces energy that is just staying right now. And with the North Node in Pisces, there is a call for all of us collectively to become more um, connected with our spiritual journey. And now that doesn't mean religious journey, because one of the things about this chart is that we have Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius, and she is in a trine with Chiron and Eris and Ceres in Aries. And that's a lot of fiery energy in a dark realm. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure to mention is that this time period for everybody personally is going to be very deep. You might find yourself in a very, very dark space trying to figure out what's going on with your mind. And your mind is going to tell you stories about how, with this Chiron and Eris together again, they are bringing up the story of how you feel left out and how you don't fit in. And if you can understand that everybody collectively is feeling this way, everybody collectively is ruminating on how they don't fit in, it just isn't going to look like that. It's on the inside, very deep on the inside. And some people will be acting out accordingly, trying to, well, it's not like they try to gain attention. It just starts happening like clockwork because they have no control over this shadowy aspect of themselves. And so this is one of the things that I've been noticing about this full moon chart is Black Moon Lilith in a trine to Chiron, Eris, and Ceres over here. Not only that, but Mars that just entered Pisces is in a square with Sedna in Gemini. And we'll have just exited a square with Uranus. And so just before this full moon, a couple days, few days before, we have the square with Mars and Uranus before Mars goes into Pisces. And Mars and Uranus have a very explosive relationship with each other. And in a square aspect, this explosive relationship might inspire some kind of action. And when Mars moves into Pisces, it's going to be like putting that hot iron in water. There'll be steam, lots of steam coming out, and possibly a very sharp dip into depression because of the square with Sedna. And Sedna, who is another asteroid that I did a video on a while back. You can go and look for that. But her energy is very dark, and it's very much about abandonment, which is even deeper than like feeling like you don't fit in. Um, and so that square between Mars and Sedna, it might drop a lot of people very sharply and deeply into depression and discovering in themselves a very dark place that is like flooded with emotion, absolutely flooded. And this is where we take up the energy of Athena, Pallas Athena. She is strategy. And so Pallas Athena conjunct the sun here in Pisces is our saving grace. She brings forth the energy of creating a strategy, which, yes, is very mind orientated, but with Pallas Athena, um, the strategy could possibly just appear out of nowhere, appearing through meditation, appearing through dedication, because that is another thing about Athena is that she's very big on dedication. And the other planet that's actually closely associated with Virgo is Vesta here, which is the planet or asteroid of um, priestess ceremony, dedication to your sacred work. And this is really more of the nitty-gritty of that archetype. Um, another interesting thing about Virgo and the archetype of Virgo is that she is the Moon Lodge moon. Um, and it's interesting to think that this full moon, that is also a total lunar eclipse, is a very uh, potent time to uh, interact with the moon. We'll just say it like that. Um, I'm not sure about like charging your crystals under this moon, but to interact with her and ask her what is, to bring in the strategy to help illuminate the path of mm, service through dedication, um, and to kind of be like in ceremony. Um, Ritual is a big thing for Virgo because it's sort of like taking that spiritual practice and putting it in physical form. The other thing I wanted to mention about the axis of Pisces and Virgo with this full moon is that we are ax well, it is possible that the access to Christ consciousness will be uh radiating from this full moon and very like ripe. It's coming into fruition in a way. Um, because if you're not so buried in this dark energy that I was talking about before with Black Moon Lilith, Chiron, Eris series, all of this is very much in the darkness. But sometimes you have to take a peek into the dark in order to know what you need to illuminate. Yeah. If you're able to ground through this time, then a new type of consciousness will be coming in more and more and more. We are reaching the end of the age of Pisces and the beginning of the age of Aquarius. And, this full moon is another reminder of what is ending and what is beginning. And it's happening through our own consciousness. These these ages don't just happen. We are evolving as living beings to create this new age that we're moving into, which means that we need to, we are bound to learning the lessons of the age that we have just been living through. And the true prophecy of the age of Pisces, prophecy of the age of Pisces is that Christ would come back, right? And from the way that we see it now as human beings, and can clearly see it, is that it looks like the second coming will be the consciousness of all of us waking up. Um, which is a beautiful thing to think. So within the realm of spirituality, this axis of Virgo and Pisces is very potent. And maybe part of the reason why Pallas Athena is there is because there is a particular strategy in our spiritual path that brings us through the hard times. Uh, honestly, I don't know how it couldn't. Um, but sometimes, and Mercury retrograde here in Pisces is basically saying that sometimes we need to let the information come into us through a still point instead of working harder to figure something out with our mind. There's a difference. And when you can lean into surrendering and just relaxing meditation, you find that things and ideas just come in, and it was like everything that were looking for while we were thinking hard, you know. One of my new things that I like to do lately is if I'm trying to remember the name of something, I just let it go for a second and then it just comes to me. It's kind of strange. So, and that's the energies that we're looking at here with all this Pisces energy. Got, Mars just came coming in and bringing in a push of energy to all of this Pisces, um, you know, transcendence. Um, yeah. Let's see, what else was I going to mention? Because, um, yeah, Mercury. Yes, and that was what it was. Mercury in a square to Black Moon Lilith as well. Yeah. So yeah, the the energies with Black Moon Lilith involved. Now, a lot of times astrologers will say, you know, we're gonna embrace Black Moon Lilith and we're gonna, you know, this is where all of your sexual power comes from and stuff. But I believe that these angles, these aspects that Black Moon Lilith is making while this full moon is happening is more of a threat. In her story, she's not just the one who leaves Eden. She also is very adamant on not coming back. And that is a very dark place to be, is like to never forgive, to always have that grudge. That's, what I'm seeing in Black Moon Lilith and Sagittarius there is a hard forged grudge that will say that religion and dogma, because dogma is just the rules of authority, um, is it's being inspired by that. This um, you know, way of reacting to darkness. And for some people, it could be deep depression, but for others, it could be a very ferocious rage that wants to surface. All of that is not very productive. Um, and one of the things to keep in mind with the moon in Virgo, this full moon in Virgo, is that productivity is actually more virtuous. And if you're going to get wrapped up with your mind, um, you're not going to be very productive towards your gifts, the things that you were given, born with, talents, gifts, passions. Um, Getting wrapped up in the darkness is, um, your ego is definitely going to want to go there because it feels like very justified, feeling very justified for that. And we'll probably see a lot of proof of that out in the world. I I see rage on the horizon. It's just easily pouring out, um, because Black Moon Lilith is actually making an aspect to Mercury and Venus and Chiron, Eris, Ceres, even to Uranus. So yeah, Black Moon Lilith is going to uh it's just going to entice us to use our energy in an angry way. And I'm here to say it's just a waste of time, it's a waste of energy. Um, to try to, it's a waste of time and energy to try to figure out anything from that place of rage and anger. Um, you might be able to get some of your autonomy back if you can find some clarity around this rage and anger. Um, but ultimately, it looks like a threatening place, a dangerous place to be um, for the next few months. And Black Moon Lilith, she does have things to show you. Just don't forget that when you're getting very angry, you're protecting something that's more vulnerable on that's deeper. And so your anger is probably protecting your sense of abandonment or a sense of shame for not being able to fit in. And again, like I said, to know and to understand that other people are going through this alongside you for their own reasons can help you have compassion for yourself and others. And hopefully it brings you out of behaving like Black Moon Lilith, wanting to rage, not ever come back, and never forgive. Um, because that's not what, that's not a very Piscean thing, or how else to say that. It's not spiritual, um, and your soul, it hurts more when you aren't at least trying to find the path to forgiveness. Now, I'm definitely working on my own version of forgiveness or my own experience of it, that is, because I've recently learned that I don't know what forgiveness is. And maybe that's part of the path, part of what is being illuminated. Um, because that is part of what we would call Christ consciousness, is knowing what forgiveness is, what it means. What does that even feel like? And so, um, with all of that Pisces energy, there could be things surfacing in order to bring you forward on that path. Um, and you know, I hope that everybody can find some grounding with that and find a way to at least soften their anger. Uh, there's a lot going to be happening. Um, I kind of go over that in my Mercury retrograde video, because there's a lot of signaling that confusion and chaos is going to be put upon us. And um, yeah, yeah. And ultimately, we have Jupiter playing a part here. Jupiter hasn't gone direct yet, but will be soon. And Jupiter in Cancer is helping us figuring out what what it means to be family, what it means to have a homeland, what it means to even have a home, a place to call home. Um, and uh, so Jupiter is in a sextile to the moon and a trine to the sun. And so, you know, this water energy, the trine to Jupiter and the sun, um, well, it it brings more of the spiritual aspect out, and we're thinking more in terms of um, like, what is our spiritual path based on our ancestral karma? So, yeah, that is a big issue right now, actually. What we consider ancestral karma, or what our ancestry even is. There is a lot to learn right now about different people's ancestry. And that is huge right now. And the sextile, the opening sextile that we have with the moon It's like an opportunity to learn more and to um just p- understand on a very simple level because all of this who's from where and where people came from originally and all that stuff that's coming out and it's very complicated and um people of the world that don't understand any of that stuff need it simplified so that we can understand it. And this sextile is an opportunity to understand. I believe. I truly believe. Yeah. And it's also an opportunity for some of the stuff to basically, um, for people to say some of the stuff doesn't even matter anymore. It's ancient history. It's like saying that alligators deserve to run the world because dinosaurs used to be here first. That's quite ancient history, and it's not even practical. And I think it's the practicality issue of the ancestry that we need to get a hold of. I need to understand better. There has to be a practical approach to understanding where people may or may not belong. Because if you're somebody who thinks that certain people don't belong somewhere, um, maybe that idea with the South Node right there next to the moon, maybe that feeling and idea can get thrown away, and you can understand that, um, we're not going to be putting crocodiles or alligators in charge of anything in anytime soon. And I don't know if that makes sense to anybody out there, but um, to me, it's just basically saying that, well, we have a modern uh, world that we're living with here that we have to move forward with somehow. So all of that is going to take some kind of practicality, just being real and possibly simplifying some of this confusion. Um, because I think that would go a long ways right now with people understanding each other. Not going to count on that actually happening anytime too soon though. But it is something that I do think about. Um, and I think that if people were able to tell the story that they know of where they came from, we might have a more simple, easy understanding of why all the people of the world are where they are now. And again, with the Black Moon Lilith aspect to all of these planets, asteroids, Chiron, Eris, Ceres, we're looking at people who, you know, that's like, do they belong here? Do they not? They, feel like, it's that idea of do you feel like you belong? And there's a lot of people feeling like they don't belong, but they have been displaced by, things that are going on in their country. Um, it's probably a bit of a dark place for some immigrants and immigration, um, for people who just want a homeland, right? And that's why Jupiter in retrograde in Cancer is like a touchy point. It's a vulnerability. It's our sensitivity to um, whether or not we have a home, what our homeland is, where it is, where we come from, where did we really come from? You know, if we all find out that we're all aliens on this planet, then then what? Does it do any of us belong on this planet? And you know, that question can get further and further and further out there, especially with Pluto being in Aquarius. We're gonna see this get way far out there. You know, President is talking about um, declassifying certain things about aliens because another president said something about them. That's so funny, right? Yeah. So, yeah, the question of where we really come from can get really far out there. And, just considering these things as we are also considering um, how to integrate immigrants and where do we all sort of belong on this planet. Kind of feels like we're playing musical chairs right now. Like, it's like I can't get away from that feeling right now. And it just happens because there's unrest or because the earth is changing and moving, and that just happens, but there's going to be darkness around all that until um, the spiritual path actually opens up and illuminates itself to all of us, to all of us, right? A spiritual path, not a religious path. All of the religions can just, maybe finally admit that they were just trying to explain something that was unexplainable. If they could just admit that, if we could all just admit that, then we could understand that one religion isn't right, another isn't wrong, and we're all just trying to describe something that used cultural references to describe the undescribable. It's something that really there were no words for. And that's just how I see it. All right, I'm going to stop sharing this because I think I went over all of the planets in this um, chart that I wanted to. Here we go. All right. Well, I hope that everybody has a beautiful full moon and try to catch it if you can, if the weather permits, and if you're in a good spot to see it. I'll probably try to get up in the middle of the night to see it early morning. Um, but yeah, I hope that everybody does well. And I will see you next time. Thanks for hanging with me. All right, bye.